Stay the fuck away, stay the fuck away. Stay the fuck away, stay the fuck away. Hello, everyone. Sean Patrick back, finally. And I know it's been a while since I've done a show, but everything's been so goddamn depressing. I tried doing this 4 or 5 times in the last couple weeks, but I just couldn't pull it off. But this morning, I woke up in a terrible funk, so I got set up here in the Alex Trebek Memorial COVID Entertainment Complex for my first look at the morning news, and inspiration struck. Prince Philip is dead. And listening to how he had touched so many people made me wonder if they actually meant Prince Andrew. What the? Bloody hell, you bastard! Oh, this must be how Mrs. World felt. Bloody hell. Get you for that. Alright, here we go, dude. Alright. So let's plow straight into things with what's been in my skull for the last while. Now picture this. March 6th, a Scarborough apartment building. There are 2 moms, each with a toddler, living on different floors. The downstairs toddler stayed with the folks upstairs for a sleepover. The next morning, the toddlers are fed cereal, immediately after which they fall down in convulsions and vomiting. Upstairs mom calls 911, which transfers her to telehealth, which then gives her the address of the nearest hospital and tells her to take the children there. Upstairs mom then calls downstairs mom. Upon her arrival, she finds her child completely unresponsive. So she goes down to her apartment to get a change of clothes for her toddler and returns upstairs, at which point they wait for another 20 to 30 minutes for an ambulance which never arrives. Finally, they take the children to the hospital where they are reportedly told to wait. Both children are eventually inducted to the ICU, and the downstairs toddler dies. But wait, there's more. Not only was this not reported until March 11th, I had to piece that together from multiple reports. Then, there was finally an update on March 23rd, which stated that the upstairs toddler had recovered, and they still don't know what caused this. Now, I checked again at noon today, and still nothing else. I am in no way making fun of this situation or the people involved, aside from the various authorities, because this kind of reaction is either a poisoning they are ignoring, or these kids just had shellfish allergies. So one of the reasons I have to get this out now is because the bodies are stacking up in the US, and I need to talk about the shooting in Colorado on March 22nd. In this instance, a 21-year-old Syrian who emigrated to America in 2002 was responsible for the deaths of 10 people in a supermarket. While I expect this to fuel more Republican anti-Muslim rhetoric and crying about foreigners stealing their jobs, I think they should look at the positive side of this, such as how well this man is clearly integrated into American society. Now after this, Ted, McConnell in the front and MAGA in the back, Cruz, called the debate over gun control ridiculous theater, which is actually correct. It is ridiculous how this debate happens after multiple shootings and still nothing changes. This is because of the repeated obtuse interpretations of the Second Amendment. Well, let me give you an acute interpretation of the right to bear arms. 1 arm, 2 arms. If you're unable to do that, call your congressperson. And speaking of Texas, it was the first state to open vaccinations to all eligible residents. At first, I thought this was an effort to keep Texans healthy enough to stab Asian toddlers, but it turns out that it was just about baseball. Now, every day there is more strange to dangerous messaging being presented to us through the media. For instance, on the strange side, I found it odd that a journalist would finally take the opportunity to seem impartial by saying, quote, George Floyd died while in police custody. Now, even though that is factually accurate, there's more than 9 minutes of video and $27 million that suggests adding the word wrongfully to that phrase would have been appropriate. On the more dangerous side, there are things like Doug Ford. Yes, he's incredibly dangerous, I trust you'll agree, but every time he makes a statement or responds to a question about vaccines, he tags on things like, well, if the feds would only give us more, and if the feds would give us solid delivery dates. Well, not only does that make it seem as if the feds are sitting on the vaccines, which they bloody well aren't, it blames them for the fact that all levels of government over the past 50 years have gutted Canada's ability to produce its own vaccines in quantity. Doug, take a page from General Rick Hillier, because he adds, dependent on supply. And seeing Doug whine about the roller coaster of dates and amounts changing while he fucks about opening and closing everything on a moment's notice is just plain hypocritical. So please, Doug be nimble, Doug be quick, suck my motherfucking dick. Hey, put that away, Sandy. I am not Doug. So, because of what I think is pure ineptness on Doug's part, in reference to the damage he's causing to the restaurant industry with the flibberty gibbeting open and closing, it's making restaurateurs say things like, and I quote, I can touch the same orange that 100 other people have touched, and that's perfectly fine. But I can't sit together safely on a patio, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Well, I'm guessing by that, they meant what they just said. And I agree, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But nor does their actual intention. It's like comparing drunken apples to oranges. Sitting, drinking, and speaking moistly and loudly whilst unmasked doesn't happen in the produce section. Well, not anymore. On last night's Global National, they did a piece on the increasing amount of vaccines in freezers, which was extremely incomplete. While they did explain that there's almost always a spike on Mondays, as that's when the provinces usually receive their deliveries, they continued to say that the number of vaccines in freezers is creeping up. To put this into proper context, let's say the feds just received 1 million doses. Those are doled out on a per capita basis, so on average, Ontario would get around 400,000 of them, about 200,000 for Quebec, leaving 400,000 to be spread across the rest of the country. Once received, the corresponding number of appointments are released, and as those appointments get filled over the course of the week, the amount in the freezer decreases. As the amount of available vaccines increase, the provinces will need time to open more vaccination clinics, which will still only be able to administer so many doses per day. These numbers will continually fluctuate because of the ever-changing amounts and delivery dates, and due to people either not signing up or not showing up for appointments. And imagine the screaming if the stocks were to run dry. And also keep in mind that Jesus doesn't magically vaccinate you while you're at the gym or the salon. So we need to do our part and uphold the public safety measures. Get vaccinated when we can, and stop creating unnecessary fear and anxiety by leaving very important information out. And speaking of which, Astra fucking Zeneca. Now, as soon as the news first broke about rare blood clots, I've been following it avidly. And I can say that both government officials and journalists across the world have severely exacerbated this situation. I could do a whole show on this, but here's a short version. These blood clots were first identified in Austria, but within a few days, all the press focused on was cases in Norway and Denmark, in which countries were suspending its use. No more mention of Austria. So largely in those few days, I found a possible 37 cases across 7 countries. The EMA then said that they had found 25 cases which they could neither confirm nor deny being linked to the vaccine. Then several public health agencies said that there is a probable link. And when everybody started freaking out more, they said, oh, don't worry, we were just trying to be transparent. And then, just the other day, the EMA announced that the 79 cases found after administering more than 20 million doses in Europe and the UK as of March 31st show that there is a clear link between AstraZeneca and the blood clots, but they don't know how. What? If the link is clear, you know what it is. That's clarity. Also, 4 blood clots in a million is far less than those caused by a great many over-the-counter drugs and even air travel. And here's a bit that's been bugging me. Racist rhetoric is not only identified by the words, but also by the intentions. Now, with that said, and while I agree that the use of the term China virus is racist, how is it somehow not racist anymore if you change the first half of that to another country and the latter to the word variant? You know what? Come here. Come here.
Still fucking racist.
Now, to clarify a couple of my comments earlier, the reigning Mrs. World stole the crown from the newly crowned Mrs. World earlier this week, claiming she was divorced, and then gave it to the runner-up. The crown was later returned when it was proven that she was, in fact, married, so I'm putting my crown back on. And my nicknaming of Ted Cruz comes directly from shirts he's selling. If anyone can send me one, preferably a wife-beater style, as they are so aptly called, without actually paying Ted Cruz for it, I promise that I will do a super dangerous Texasian-sized stunt, dependent on budget, whilst wearing it. So everybody, wear a mask, stay the fuck away from each other, and wash everything. A lot. Well, it still might save me from some meteorites.